Thank you for joining us for the BOMA Kansas City November Membership Program, Introduction to the Well Building Standard featuring Sarah Greenwood. Sarah Greenwood is a sustainability consultant with over 16 years of experience. Her expertise and insight into emerging green building practices and technologies provide a unique perspective for clients pursuing green building certification and sustainable business initiatives. She helps teams manage the certification process to achieve their performance goals. Her projects range in building type and are located nationwide. She has supported the U.S. Green Building Council to inform updates to the last 2 versions of the LEED rating system, participated on the LEED steering committee, and has served as one of a few LEED project reviewers for GBCI. Ms. Greenwood currently serves on the LEED advisory committee. She has demonstrated experience with other green building certification programs, including the Well Building Standard, Green Globes, Energy Star, and the Collaborative for High Performance Schools. Ms. Greenwood founded her consulting firm, the Greenwood Consulting Group, based here in Kansas City in 2012, and it is a certified women's-owned business. She is passionate about improving the health and lifestyle of building occupants through the Well Building Standard and has had several speaking engagements on the topic. Today, she is a WELL faculty. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you, BOMA, Kansas City, for having me. I have a lot of slides to get through. I'll do my best to keep you energized and engaged in this topic. It's an exciting topic, and I think it's something that you've probably heard a lot of buzz about, and for good reason. So I'm going to skip on through to the next slide. So the Well Building Standard is the first standard to focus exclusively on the health and well-being of occupants. And it really does take a holistic approach to buildings and the occupants in the buildings in order to provide an environment that addresses behavior, operations, that foster good design decisions and good behavioral choices. The Well Building Institute is a public benefit corporation with a mission to improve human health and well-being in buildings and communities. IWBI is the organization body that delivers the WELL standard. So the Well Building Standard is the leading tool for advancing health and well-being in buildings and communities globally. In 2014, IWBI launched the Well Building Standard after a 6-year expert peer review process that included scientists, practitioners, medical professionals from around the world, and with the mission to provide a model for designing, constructing, and for existing buildings to integrate human health features in the built environment. So the standard can be applied across many different building types, different locations. It was initially intended for commercial and industrial office buildings, but today the Well Building Standard is really geared towards all building types. The impact globally has been substantial, with over 4,300 different well projects around the world in over 60 different countries. You can see that the standard has evolved from the very first version to the version 2 pilot to today, what is now version 2. I'm going to go through version 2 in this presentation. If anyone's interested in learning more about becoming a well-accredited professional, please contact me after. You can see there's over 12,700 well-accredited professionals globally, and that allows building owners and developers and managers the understanding that you know the WELL rating system and how to implement strategies to achieve wellness in your building. So the WELL standard is really focused around the people in the building. So investing in the people so that you can have real estate assets that generate savings in personnel costs, enhance human experience, and provide optimal human health and well-being for your building occupants. So why is health and well-being important? Well, did you know that we spend about 90% of our time indoors? That's grounded in a body of research that has dictated the importance of health and wellness in our built environment and how we can find ways to enhance our indoor environment since we are spending so much time indoors. So WELL can really create a built environment that improves the nutritional options of occupants, fitness, mood, sleep patterns, and performance of its occupants, all in one. So if you stop and think about it, our environment can influence our lifestyle choices, our work culture, our food choices. You know, do you have a snack machine or a soda machine around the corner from your desk? If you're working from home right now and your kitchen's near your office, what kinds of foods do you keep in your office or near in your kitchen that, you know, influence how you feel overall? So it can really shape our habits, our choices. It can regulate our sleep-wake cycles. It can drive us towards healthy and unhealthy choices and passively influence our health through the quality of our surroundings. Basically, our lifestyle is very much dependent on our surroundings. You know, whether we walk to work or walk to the grocery store or walk our kids to school or take public transportation, it's all dictated by our choices in our built environment and our local surroundings. So our built environment does, like I said, have a profound impact on our health, our well-being, and productivity. And this chart shows that more than half of our state of health is influenced by our built environment. So our state of health, according to the CDC, is very much influenced by our social and physical environment compared to the other slices of the pie here. So there really is value in investing in the people in our building in order to have the greatest return. In terms of operating costs, companies typically spend about 1% on energy costs, 9% on rent and operations, and 90% on salary or benefits. So if you consider that distribution, there really is a substantial value in investing in those people and making sure that they're healthy, that they're comfortable, that they want to be there. The personnel costs significantly outweigh the costs for design, construction, maintenance, and operations of a building. And by addressing the health of occupants, you're investing in the biggest bottom line of your 30-year cost of a building, the personnel, and that offers a meaningful return on investment. So here's some idea or some stats around why organizations are pursuing WELL internationally and domestically. And the idea being that when people think that they're in a building that is greener and that management provides a structure that indicates their health conscious organization, that the environment can have a direct impact on their productivity, whether they show up to work, retention, that translates to medical costs and complaints. These are all things that are reasons why many companies are really investing in the pursuit of WELL certification. So moving on to better buildings. So WELL is a rating system that positions the design and operations as an agent of public health, as I mentioned, and it's a means to really be more performance-based. So you are actually measuring a multitude of different criteria when it comes to air quality, water quality, and I'm going to get into these specifics a little bit later. But you measure, you verify, and then you monitor your performance over time so that you can ensure that you are providing your targeted health and well-being impacts for your occupants. So IWBI, the organization that I said wrote the WELL building standard, is administered through GBCI, which is the Green Building Certification Institute. And it's actually the same organization that administers LEED. So that same third-party certification will certify either LEED or WELL, in addition to other rating systems. And project teams have the opportunity to hire GBCI performance providers to do their testing, or they can service this out to other proven providers that are capable of doing your performance testing on your building. So you do have that choice when pursuing certification. Each feature is designed to address the issue impacting health, comfort, or knowledge of occupants through design, operations, and behavior. And this is a cyclical process. It's all interconnected throughout the design and operations, construction and operations of your building. So WELL is really like a nutrition label for your building, providing transparency on the built environment of your project. So if a building were to be kind of pulled apart and looked at literally in terms of the air quality and the water quality and other performance criteria, you could literally see a nutrition label or a rating, and that's really what WELL strives to do. It aggregates all of the scores for each of the concepts like a nutrition label. So the version 2, like I mentioned, is a comprehensive approach to well-being, and it addresses these 10 concepts: air, water, nutrition, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. It's a lot. I'm going to go through each of these 10 concepts and provide an overview of each. And I'm going to try to do so swiftly. So please do, keep your questions in the chat, and I will certainly answer them at the end. So starting with air, the air concept, as you might imagine, has to do with air quality across your interior of your building. If you have natural ventilation, it also takes into account the air quality outside of your building. And the air concept promotes the clean air through minimizing the sources of indoor air pollution, requiring optimal indoor air quality to support the health of building occupants. Since air pollution is the #1 environmental cause of premature mortality, contributing to more than 50,000 premature deaths in the US annually. Air quality is deteriorating due to traffic and construction and agricultural activity, combustion sources, and particulate matter. So these are kind of a high-level summary of some of the components that the air concept addresses. So the issue, the air concept promotes clean air through minimizing the sources of indoor air pollution, requiring optimal indoor air quality to support the health of building occupants. Air quality is deteriorating for reasons I mentioned, and so there are certain measures that we can do, particularly now, and I know with heightened concern in the stage of COVID, there's a lot of interest around this matter, which I'm not going to have time to get into a lot of detail, but please do contact me if you're interested in some of the WELL recommendations when it comes to COVID. I'm going to briefly touch on them, but there's a lot in the air concept that we can talk about here. Air pollution being the #1 environmental concern, as I mentioned, is something that the WHO estimates is also of particular concern, and that's why it has the greatest number of points overall in the WELL standard. So some sources of air quality concern that I just wanted to highlight here: ventilation is the greatest piece of this pie, clearly, and WELL addresses ventilation through, like I said, both natural and mechanical ventilation sources, and meeting ASHRAE 62.1 2013, having demand control ventilation for spaces greater than 5,500 square feet, or spaces that house more than 25 people. Systems balancing, so providing, conducting testing of balancing of HVAC equipment, and then certainly taking other filtration measures to help minimize the amount of dust and debris from staying within your building, just to name a few here. So water. The water concept promotes safe and clean water through the implementation of proper filtration techniques and regular testing in order for building occupants to receive optimal water for various uses. So strategies include removing contaminants through filtration and treatment and strategic placement. We all get a little thirsty during the day. You might not realize that, most of us tend to go through our days dehydrated, and that can have a real impact on our health and well-being. So having clean drinking water is really essential to optimal health. And there are 3 preconditions in the water concept. Preconditions are mandatory requirements to pursuing well. All of these 3 preconditions involve testing for impurities. So as I mentioned, the impact, water quality is just as important as providing access to water. And if we neglect to fill up our water bottles during the day, just being hydrated by 2% can impair our tasks that require attention, psychomotor, and immediate memory skills. So according to the Institute of Medicine, women should actually consume 2.7 liters of water a day. Men should have 3.7 liters of water a day. And more than half of the US population is typically dehydrated. So I'm gonna recommend that everybody right now grab your glass of water nearby, take a sip. Okay, great. One thing to mention, each of the well concepts has an interconnected part of the body that it strives to impact. So as you go through the standard, you actually see the correlation between that particular concept and what parts of the body it is impacting, which I think is really interesting. Nourishment. So nourishment requires the availability of fresh and wholesome foods. It limits sugars and other artificial ingredients, really to encourage better eating habits and a good food culture. So nutrition plays a key role in the health maintenance, weight management, and chronic disease prevention. It encourages healthy eating habits by providing occupants with healthier food choices, behavior cues, and knowledge about nutrient quality that are really essential. Just limiting sweetened beverages can make a profound impact on how we feel, how we perform, and our productivity throughout the day. So the average dietary intake of calories in the US in 2010 used to be 2,600 a day, which is increased by more than 25% in energy intake since 1970. The consumption of flour, cereal products, added fats and oils, as well as sugars and sweeteners are some of the main contributors to our increased caloric intake over time. 69%, or 2/3 of the US population over the age of 20 today are overweight, and more than 1/3 are considered obese. This is pretty similar worldwide, and an issue that is why the WELL standard has really taken measures to make sure that it's addressed. There are 2 preconditions, like I said, mandatory requirements in this concept, which involve providing healthy food varieties and providing nutritional information to enable healthy food choices. So it may not come as a surprise to you that poor dietary choices can really make an impact on how you feel. And it can be linked to diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, hypertension, dental issues, depression, coronary heart disease, and cancers. Sorry, well, kind of gets into the nitty gritty of things that aren't always so pleasant, but for good reason. Consuming more fruits and vegetables is associated with a 27% lower rate of depression. Research also shows that when adults have nutrition, they are 25% more nutritional information. They're 25% more likely to eat a healthier diet. So if you're office, when you do go back to an office, if you haven't already, has a cafeteria, for example, having placement of fruits and vegetables in your cafeteria, maybe near the checkout line or in places where you would otherwise have other impulse items, is considered encouraging good, healthy food choices. Similarly, having labeling so that occupants can see the nutritional value, qualities of a dish or of a any packaged foods, is also a good way to inform good, healthy choices. So light. The light concept provides illumination guidelines that aim to minimize disruption of the body's circadian rhythm. It enhances productivity and provides appropriate visual acuity where it's needed. It also provides it also requires that lighting systems are designed to increase alertness, enhance occupant experience, and promote sleep. So daylight and electric lighting are both addressed in the light concept. And it's something that I'm going to explain as far as the issues. So physiological processes include alertness, digestion, and sleep are all regulated in part by variance in light exposure. According to the Institute of Medicine, about 50 to 70 million US adults have chronic sleep disorders. This can lead to increased risk in diabetes, obesity, depression, heart attack, hypertension, and unfortunately stroke. So lack of natural daylight in a workspace poses a health hazard by 36%, according to psychologists and psychiatrists. One of the best things you can do each morning is to open up your windows and see daylight, and to also, if you can, have daylight in your space throughout the day, best you can. Quality of light really does impact our well-being in more ways than I think people realize. So it may not surprise you that just being able to see outdoors really does also enhance your mood, and it can just make you feel good in a space. So if you stop and think for a moment of a space that has really good daylight in Kansas City, like I'm thinking about Union Station, for example, where you have a nice big open atrium, and how you feel in that space compared to how you might feel in a dark basement, for example, like clearly a distinction. So all light is, and not just sunlight, can contribute to our circadian photoentrainment. So to maintain optimal, properly synchronized circadian rhythms, the body does require periods of brightness and darkness. Light exposure late in the night, early morning will shift our rhythms forward to advance us to the next day, whereas exposure in the late afternoon, early night will shift our rhythms back. So our bodies need both brightness and darkness to have a good rhythm, and well addresses this through policies with companies and operational recommendations. Movement. So you might have been wondering, what is movement? So movement concept integrates exercise and fitness into our everyday life. And it features things such as having staircases in front and center in your building as opposed to just an elevator when you walk in, and support for an active lifestyle and encouraging people to be less sedentary. So if it's okay and you're able to, I'm going to encourage you to please stand up for just a moment wherever you are, stretch your arms, see how nice it feels just to stand. I have a standing desk. I'm standing currently, and I don't know if any of you have a sit-stand desk. If you do, put in the chat. I'd love to know what percentage of you guys out there are using a sit-stand desk, or if you have walking workstations. I know one concept that's been really fun, I've seen a lot more people install treadmills side by side in an office so that they can walk and talk and have a meeting. Now, clearly you want to do that away from other employees in your office so that you're not causing a disturbance, but it's kind of a nice way to keep the blood flowing and creative juices going, and still move your body and have a meeting. The movement issue. Most adults are not nearly as active as they need to be. Here's some unfortunate data on that. And if you haven't heard that sitting is the new smoking, yes. Sitting actually burns 50 fewer calories per hour than standing. So sitting more than 3 hours a day is associated with a two-year-ish lower life expectancy. Pretty unfortunate, sorry. Everyone run out and get those standing desks when you end this seminar. An average adult obtains about 6 to 10 minutes of moderate, vigorous physical activity a day, and only 5% adults in the US obtain the recommended 30 minutes of daily physical activity. So this is attributed to our moderate transportation, our modern transportation that we have in most cities, and our love for our cars, and saving time and conveniences. Just take the elevator. Most of us have pretty sedentary jobs, so just finding time to like 2.5 hours is what's recommended a week to reduce your overall mortality risk by nearly 20% can really make a difference. So WELL really actually, like I said, encourages things within your building, such as staircases, and doing things to encourage people to take the stairs. So installing things like music near the stairs, or artwork, or putting it near outdoor windows for nice daylighting, are all ways that a lot of designers are considering to encourage active behaviors. Some organizations are also providing incentives for physical activity, like reimbursing for biking to work as opposed to driving, joining a fitness club, and there is a precondition in this movement concept which supports that as well. So it's something that I think we're seeing more of today. Thermal comfort. So thermal comfort aims to promote human productivity and provide a maximum level of thermal comfort for all users through improved HVAC system design and control, and meeting the individual thermal preferences. So despite technological advances, great improvements in our understanding of thermal comfort in buildings of many people are still uncomfortable during the day. So in fact, studies have shown that only 11% of office buildings surveyed in the US provide thermal environments that met accepted goals of human satisfaction. It's pretty sad. In fact, as many 41% of the workers have expressed dissatisfaction with their thermal environment. So employees are performing on the average 15% poorer in hot conditions and 14% poorer in colder conditions. So actually paying attention to the thermal comfort of your occupants can translate to productivity and real satisfaction of your employees and wanting to retain them in your office. Comfortable thermal environments that satisfy all occupants can be sometimes challenging to achieve. So due to individual thermal preferences and possible spatial or temporal variations in thermal environments, there is a need for a holistic approach to thermal comfort that can satisfy each individual's needs in the building. So when possible, personal thermal comfort devices can be used, and other ways to solicit feedback. So there are some free types of software out there that you can get, and it communicates with the people in the building and says, are you hot, are you cold? Maybe put on a sweater or do this or that to try to kind of have a feedback loop and let your building manager know that you're not comfortable in this part of the building and it's consistently at this time, for example. So there are ways to solicit that information through surveys. I'm happy to share that after the seminar if you reach out to me, some sample surveys. Sound. So the acoustic comfort in your space is also very important. So the overall level of satisfaction as far as acoustical comfort can be quantified, and there's different design strategies and building improvements that can be made to achieve acoustical comfort conditions. So exposure to noise sources such as traffic, transportation has been shown to hinder the health and well-being of people in different ways. So sound within an enclosed space from sources such as HVAC equipment and appliances and other people in your space has been shown to really hinder our productivity. So finding ways to mask those sounds and to take certain measures that are going to improve acoustical quality in your space will not only improve productivity, but it'll improve focus, memory retention, skills actually in children has been proven through studies, and just provide a more pleasing work environment. The sound concept aims to provide comprehensive approach to addressing the concerns of acoustical comfort through design considerations. So by assessing acoustical needs in different areas of the building and designing or making improvements, you can address such needs to achieve your performance goals. So materials, there's a lot of different ways in which WELL addresses building materials, both in your building, outside of your building, and finding ways to reduce human exposure, whether it's through environmental contamination to chemicals that may impact your health during construction or remodeling or furnishing, even operations and maintenance. So chemicals, the chemicals industry is a central part of our global economy, and it's an integral to a number of different sectors that we've played a major role in our quality of life. However, the health and environmental impacts of chemicals in circulation can sometimes be unknown. So this concept encourages material transparency and understanding of what chemicals are harmful to our health. So through the legacy of different chemicals from asbestos, mercury, chromated copper, arsenate, and others, there's now a large restriction on the number on manufacture and use. However, we do continue to pose dangers in our older buildings. So the environmental fate of those materials, it's important to test and make sure that we don't keep those chemicals in our building. Particularly lead exposure, for example, can account for an estimated 1 million deaths in 2017, and it's also a global issue that can certainly be mitigated if certain measures are taken. So building materials, furniture, cleaning products, and pest management all play a role in the materials concept, and WELL encourages a safe environment of some of these different types and how we dispose of them, in our waste stream. So restrictions on hazardous ingredients like I mentioned, asbestos, mercury, and lead are all mandatory in the WELL standard. So now we're going to move on to MIND. It might surprise you that MIND is something that is in the WELL standard. It has to do with the humans in the building more so than the building itself in some cases, and it really addresses, it promotes mental health through policy and programs. Some design strategies also seek to address the diverse factors that influence our cognitive and emotional well-being. And WELL recognizes that features of the built environment can be identified in the workplace policies to positively impact mood, sleep, stress levels, and promote an overall occupant health and well-being. So mental health and substance use conditions are widespread globally. They collectively account for 13% of global burden of disease, with depression and anxiety among the leading causes. Overall, it's estimated that 14% of deaths worldwide are attributed to mental health conditions. So WELL encourages mental health awareness, integrating nature and providing social services and restorative programming where possible, all addressed in the mind concept. So because the mind plays a vital role in individuals' overall health and well-being, an atmosphere that supports a healthy mental state can have a significant psychological and physical benefits. In interventions to mediate stress can either be direct or they can be indirect. This includes providing access to therapies that can promote relaxation and address the mental or environmental trauma, instituting policies that improve sleep behavior or encourage altruism and community engagement, and promote the use of sensor technologies to increase awareness of physiological and environmental factors that can have a positive behavioral change. Community. So the WELL community concept aims to support access to essential health care, build a culture of health that can accommodate diverse population needs, and establish an inclusive, engaged occupant community. So within every built space, there is a community of people with diverse characteristics linked to social ties, common perspectives, and they engage in joint action and experiences. So community really tries to bridge that community engagement. There are determinants of health that can influence health discrepancies, which are the differences in health status between a population of groups that can result in unequitable distribution of power and resources as a function of gender, race, and ethnicity, or even socioeconomic status. So by promoting community well-being, it should begin with supporting the fundamental factors that influence individual and collective health. Providing equal and affordable access to comprehensive health services supports better individual and community health outcomes, reducing health disparities and overall healthcare costs. The concept addresses emergency preparedness, particularly right now, a strategy to address COVID-safer environments, and health benefits, new parent family support, civic engagement, diversity and inclusion, and accessibility and universal design are all addressed in the community concept of WELL. So as you can see, the standard is really built for you, the people in the building, and it should really be feasible to pursue any building type. WELL V2 really aimed to address that. The previous version of WELL, and then through the pilot program, they worked out a lot of areas that I think warranted attention and made it a much more flexible yardstick so that project teams can decide what areas above and beyond those preconditions are within particular interest for building owners, developers, and managers. So WELL has a dynamic scorecard. Everything is maintained online through this dashboard. Here are the 10 concepts. And you can see here there's 10 different concepts, 23 preconditions required, and 96 possible optimizations or credits. So projects can decide what they want to pursue, up to 12 points per concept across these 10 different concepts. And like I said, much of it is a performance based. So there is some documentation that project teams put together in terms of a letter of assurance or ventilation performance requirements. those sorts of things. But then about 60 to 70% of the standard is actually performance-based. So a third party comes out and does their testing, and every well project is then verified through that on-site performance testing process. That performance testing can either be done by a GBCI representative, or you can hire a provider. You can actually look up on the Well Standard website and see which providers are located here in the Kansas City area. You can go beyond the Kansas City area. I'm here in Kansas City, and I manage the certification for well buildings, but I don't do the performance testing. So I work with building owners and developers and managers to certify the project and work as a liaison between that team and the providers. Here in Kansas City, I'm working on a couple projects, and I'd be happy to share that with you afterwards if you're interested. So some programmatic changes that, like I said, kind of help make version 2 a little bit, I think, a smoother process. They've now added for well core, which you can certify your core and shell of your building. There's now a minimum of bronze that's available to core and shell projects. There's no minimum point requirements to get well core. But you do need to have at least 40 possible points. And then it goes down from there, silver, gold, and platinum in terms of your level of performance. So all core projects are predominantly owner occupied. Don't have to be, but there's a threshold there. And then the minimum number of points once it's verified after your performance testing, you get a plaque, and you can hang that proudly in your building, in your building lobby, and you can continue to monitor performance over time. So well is actually a rating system that has a bridge to some other rating systems out there, including LEED, BREEAM, Green Star, and the Living Building Challenge. So it's intended that you could potentially pursue more than one certification at a time if desired. So I have a feeling some people are probably interested in knowing what the cost of well certification is. Here is an overview of the cost. I also get a membership discount, so if you work with me, I do provide that discount. The cost for well core is about half of this cost per square foot, and there's also reduced pricing of up to 35% if you're in certain markets, such as small businesses, senior or assisted living, affordable housing, nonprofits, schools, other types of education facilities, government buildings, and emerging markets. So I'm happy to get a quote for you if you're interested in what it would cost to get your building certified. There's also opportunities to scale up through a portfolio of buildings. So if you have multiple buildings that you wanted to certify together, they don't even have to be in the same city. You can do so through the portfolio program. So if you were to get started, you would want to register your project. Like I said, it's a flexible framework. You input, once you get your project registered, you start to assess your building's performance. You implement certain criteria that you might not already be doing. If it's an existing building, if it's a new building, you establish that criteria, whether it's a letter of assurance, like I said, or policies with your HR department. And then the verification comes at the end when you're ready for that third-party verifier to come out and do their air quality testing, water quality testing, light readings, etc. And then you continue to monitor your project's performance over time. So it can be an ongoing process. So that's the well standard. Here's my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me after the program and let me know if you have any questions. I know that was a lot of information. look up wellcertified.com and you can download the standard for free. You don't need an account to do so. I think you can get a lot of great information by perusing the standard, and in particular, check out some of their webinars and information on COVID re-entry of buildings. I know that's of particular interest right now. And Crystal, if there's questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We do have one question.
Okay.
It is, what are some of the positive financial impacts that you typically see from a building securing and maintaining the well building standards?
Positive financial impacts. So I would say that by investing in the people in your building, you in turn are, providing an investment that will allow the people in your building to feel cared for. You're providing good strategies for the physical environment and through policies that are going to have an immediate return in terms of the health of those building occupants, the productivity of those building occupants, the long-term retention, and even attracting new talent. I know some of the projects that I'm working on currently are doing it for all of those reasons, but they want to stay ahead. They want to be shown as a leader, and they want to attract new and young and talented professionals to their business, and putting well as a certification priority communicates that. So I would say, financially, your people are your biggest bottom line. Even little things that, if you didn't pursue the whole certification, that can have an immediate return, whether it be air quality or water quality or even access to drinking water in more parts of your building, are going to be a good investment. That hands down, whether it's for the people or for the health of the building itself, can have a worthwhile return.
Fantastic. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you
Okay.
so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Coming on. Hopefully we'll be able to meet again in the future and do something in person with you.
I would love it.
Yeah, have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
And we will put this online. Sarah has been gracious enough to provide us with her PowerPoint, so we'll have that online within the next week with the presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks.